Let's give it up for Patrick!
Well, thank you, Chris, for the words of flattering. I'll hope to live up to those here. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about my conservation experience and why the conservation movement shouldn't just be left to me or to you, but it should be for everyone here. This past summer, I had the privilege to work through the Idaho Conservation Corps during work ranging from cattle fencing to fire line construction to trail work. I was fortunate enough to spend time in some of our nation's most pristine wilderness areas. When we think of national forests and national wildlife refuges, we think of these places as a safeguard for biodiversity and ecological productivity. Sure, my backyard in Southwest Ohio might be overrun by invasive plants, and it might be devoid of critical species and plant species, but at least we have those wilderness areas to protect us, right? We have those areas that we can fall back on at all times. And I'm going to speak a little bit to my experience that is not the case. I remember when my crew and I first arrived at our job site in eastern Idaho. It was a national wildlife refuge tucked between a couple mountain ranges not far from Grand Teton National Park. I remember coming there and being just awestruck by the scenery, especially for an Ohio kid like myself. I want you to imagine this wildlife refuge as a kind of bowl, right? And you have water coming from the mountains around, collecting in this bowl, making essentially a swamp. A lot of work involved repairing fences around critical riparian habitats in the area, and the types of streams that fed into this remote, desolate wildlife refuge were not the streams that you might think. You know, they're not these clear, picturesque streams meandering down from the mountains. Instead, the inflow channels I saw at the refuge were not streams or creeks, but they were culvers, pipes, and canals. Water would exit from these inflows, visibly discolored from agricultural runoff, cow feces, and other contaminants. Once the water would enter the refuge, it would be diverted through a series of channels, canals, and ditches. Eventually, the water would reach this man-made drainage that was illegally created in the early 20th century to irrigate crops down valley. And when we engage in these human battles of profit and land increases, these plant and animal communities suffer at our expense. We fight against these ecological systems and we fight against each other, and often to our ironic surprise, we reap the devastating consequences. No longer can we look at the problems we face in our cities and communities and say, at least there's land out there that remains wild and uncorrupted in the truest sense. The problems I face in my community and the problems you face in your community are not disconnected. And these problems of environmental degradation are leaked into our most wild lands. Yet there's not inherent bad in the fact that our species has infiltrated thoroughly into even our most pristine ecosystems. In fact, to assume that all human involvement in our ecosystems is bad is to deny the beauty and goodness that every human has in their souls. It is to deny the beauty that human connection can create. Goodness can come from human development, and I say goodness needs to come from human development, because the evils and degradation of human activity has so thoroughly soaked into every corner of the world. Realize that there's hope in our humanity. Realize also that there needs to be a concerted effort to foster that hope in ourselves and in others. There needs to be an understanding that action starts with making an action. Action starts with saying, my lawn in Southwest Ohio is full of invasives, so let me do something about it. The nature preserve down the street won't cancel out the ecological loss that my yard creates, nor will the state park an hour away or the national forest 3 hours away. There is no magic land over yonder that is holding us back from ecological degradation. I challenge you to make the decision to strive to fix the problems that lie in your own backyard. At my high school in St. Xavier in Cincinnati, we have undertaken that attempt to fix our own backyard and restore native habitat and biodiversity. I hope that we can no longer say that I hope the nature preserve down the street is doing their part, because we can say for a fact that we are doing our part to keep our forest healthy. Yet there are times, I think, that we can enact change that goes beyond our own backyard. I would say this is one such time. Go make that impact that stretches beyond your backyard. Know that Western civilization has reached far into our wildest places and has meddled with some of our most sacred ecosystems. Yet take hope in the fact that the harm we cause demands only the best of humanity to solve the problems. And they demand the grace and love that humanity can offer. Thank you very much. Go in peace and go with God.